All right, y'all. Mark here. I'm here doing my research, doing my studying, and I decided to take a little breather. And what I'm about to say has nothing to do with what I'm studying. This is just something that was in my mind, and I just want to talk about it and put up a video in case anybody watching. But I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said women do not leave good men. That was women don't leave good men. And I thought that that's to me when I hear that it sounds like a catchphrase. It just sounds like a real catchy phrase. Like it sounds good. It sounds like a talking point, but there is nothing in it that when you test it, like when you hold it when you put it up under the light and really look at that statement, it falls apart. It's porous, meaning it has all kind of holes in it, right? Women don't leave good men. Here's why that phrase. Here's why that phrase is like it's just a weak phrase, and why it makes no sense whatsoever. Uh, because of the very term itself, good. The word good. The word good is not. It's not a litmus test as to whether a woman will be with you or not. To the fellas and to the ladies, the word good is not a litmus test as to whether a man will be with you or not. What do I mean by that? First of all, just for those who don't know, a litmus test is a test where you test for alkalinity or acid by using litmus. So if you use a blue litmus, it turns red, right? If you use a red litmus, it turns blue. So depending on what the color turns, it will let you know if there's acidity, if the contents are acidic or alkaline. So it's a test to find out. So the color will change to let you know what it is, right? I'm telling you what litmus test means. So the word good, a good man or a good woman, just a good person, a nice, we could use the word nice, we could substitute the word good for nice. A nice person, a good man, a good woman are not the litmus test. It is not the test as to whether, it's not a deciding factor as to whether a woman stays with you or not. Fellas, I'm telling you facts right here. This is gems. This is jewels. And ladies, same thing holds true for you because it applies. This is about human nature. It's not gender, right? It's not about gender. It's not a gender bias. It's about human nature. And human nature, whether it's a female or a male, human nature remains constant. It remains the same, right? So why am I saying this? Because there's a lot of good people in the world that's not in relationships. They're genuinely good people, but they're not in relationships, right? They're genuinely bad people, right? They're genuinely terrible people who are in relationships. Uh, my point is this. People leave relationships and stay in relationships for various reasons that has nothing to do with whether you're good or you're bad. Case in point, the person who's in a terrible relationship, a person who's in a relationship, and the relationship is not necessarily, the person they're with is not necessarily a good person, but the person might be a good provider. You see where I'm going? They're not a good person. They might cheat. They might have like all kind of character flaws, right? But yet they're in a relationship because there's something else about them that makes that person they're with stays. A lot of time people stay in relationships because of convenience. So it goes either way. A woman will stay with a man because of convenience. Not all the times. Again, not all the time, sometimes. Not all the time, sometimes. Not all the times, but many a times. Women will stay with a man because that man might be a terrible partner. He might be a terrible husband, a terrible in the bedroom. It could be but she will stay because he might be a great provider, right? He provides her a level of a certain quality of lifestyle that she knows is not easily replaced or substitute. Him as a man can be easily replaced and substitute, but what he provides as a lifestyle, the quality of the lifestyle, she knows is not easily found or substitute. So for that reason, she stays. That's one example. A man will stay with a woman who he might not believe she's necessarily good to in certain areas in the relationship, but she might be good to the children. And he'll stay because he knows she's a good mother to the children. She might be terrible with money, right? Because that's why I said the word, you can't say, the word good is loaded, because what does it really mean? A woman doesn't leave a good man. Good at what? I mean, what's a good man? How do you define a good man? You see what I mean? It's subjective. How do you define a good man? Is he a good provider? Is he a good caretaker? Is he a good protector? I mean, what's a good man? It's subjective and it's relative and all of that. So to me, it's not about just you could be a good person, but you have to bring more than goodness to a relationship for it to last, because there's so much. A relationship is a very complex engineered machine. Think of it like that. It's a machine that is complex in terms of its engineering. And so there's so much wires in terms of the word engineer. What constructs a good relationship, a successful relationship, a healthy? There's a lot of parts. There's a lot of moving parts. So saying a woman doesn't leave a good man, yes, they do, all the time. All the time. And a man leaves a man. I got friends of mine who I've, or not so much friends, but associates or whatever. And I've heard men say this: I lost a good one. I messed up and left a good one, right? Because when you're leaving, you don't realize until you get with other people. Sometimes you go into other relationships and then you say, I had a good relationship. Because now you're with somebody who's maybe 1,000,000 times worse or 10 times worse. So now you realize in hindsight, I had a good relationship. I left a good relationship. I've heard that from men and I've heard that from women. I've heard that from plenty of women. I let a good one go. But you don't realize it was good till you went out there and saw how terrible other people can be. And then you realize, hey, I had a good one. And that happens all the time. And I'm not criticizing, judging, or passing judgments. That's life. We all go through that. But what I'm criticizing and judging, if it's anything, is the statement, women don't leave good men, because that's a crock of nonsense. Men and women, we all leave good relationships. And then later on, we realize it was a good relationship when we get into other relationships that are terrible, right? So I don't necessarily agree that. I don't even think that people are necessarily, like, here's another thing that I've learned, right? I don't think it's a good or a bad thing, right? I just think some people are not good for each other, right? Let's be honest, right? If you leave a relationship, it doesn't necessarily mean the other person was bad. They were just bad for you. You see what I'm saying? So sometimes it's not that it's not about the person not being a good person. It's just that y'all are not good for each other. And that's okay. That's totally fine. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody is compatible, and not everybody is meant to be in your life as a partner. Maybe they're just there to teach you something. So again, like I said, there are genuinely disgusting people. I'm not naive. They're genuinely horrible people in this world. But the broad statement of women don't leave good men, that generalization, there's so much wrong with it, and I don't like that statement for many reasons. Because I've had women leave me, right, as a man, and so what, does that make me a bad guy? You know what I'm saying? I take exception to that. I look at the women who have left me, or the relationships that I've been in that they left me, right? I have to be honest with myself and say, when I look back at it, it's just we weren't good for each other. I wouldn't say they were bad people or I'm a bad person. We just weren't good for each other. And that's normal. That's okay. Not everybody, like I said, is on the same wavelength and compatibility and all of that. So I don't necessarily, like I said, people leave people for various reasons. And not everybody is compatible, and not everybody is meant to. I believe in soulmates. If you have not met your soulmate, if you have not found your soulmate, everybody you're with is a temporary fix. They're a bus ride, if you will, They're a train stop, right? At the train ride, a train bus, train stop, right? They're just there to take you to the next station. and you know, that stop, that ride could be a couple of years. It could be 5 years, 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 months. At some point, you get to your stop and you guys get to part ways. Until you meet your soulmate, everybody's a fleshmate. Everybody, without exception, we're fleshmates. Till you find your soulmate, we're just finding fleshmates. We're being driven by loneliness. That's the flesh. We're being driven by, you know, horniness. That's the flesh. We're being driven by, you know, just being miserable within ourselves. So we want, that's all. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that serves as the impetus, the drive for us to get into these relationships. Not all of them is being driven by God. A lot of these relationships that I was in personally, they were God's permissive will, not God's divine will. And the danger, what I've learned, right, is when you're in God's permissive will, that's tantamount, meaning that's equal to God just saying, okay, you know what? You don't want to do it my way? Go ahead and do it your way. I'll allow you to do it your way. I permit you to do it your way. Only so you could bump your head time and time and time again until you get it right. And getting it right means coming and falling in my divine will for your life, not permissive will. Permissive will is Proverbs, leaning onto your own understanding. And I've leaned onto my own understanding multiple times, and every time it's failed. Right? But that was me being in God's permissive will. And a lot of us are in or were in relationships that were God's permissive will, not God's divine will. And anytime you find yourself in God's permissive will, you are in trouble. No matter how much fun you're having, you're in his permissive will. It's only a matter of time before the wheels fall off that wagon and you're going to fall and bump your head. So again, a lot of these relationships are permissive will. It's us leaning to our own understanding, right? Us not really waiting on God, right? We say we wait, but yet we do what we want to do. And then when it doesn't work, we throw stones at each other. And that's not, to me, like I said, it's cool. I get it. We're humans and we're angry and we might be bitter and we might be mad. So we spew venom, and that's part of the human nature. But as a voice of reason, I don't believe people leave good people necessarily. I believe people leave people who they're not good for each other, right? Every woman that left me, we weren't good for each other. I can honestly say that. We were not good for each other. Some of the things I've learned about myself, I'm an introvert. I'm not an extrovert, right? I like to sit in the house and study all day. That's from I've known myself. That's my Friday nights, my Saturday. Honestly, I just got my library card because it expired. I just got a new library card from Brooklyn Library. I hang out in libraries. Like I do. You will find me on a Friday night or a Saturday night or a Sunday night in a library until they kick me out. I'll hang out in the library, and I've been doing that for years. I'll just go sit in the library by myself, just hang out in the library. So that's that personality is not a popular personality. That personality is not going to work well in a lot of relationships. Let's just be honest. And I tried to fit into relationships, not ever really considering who I really am. You know, my personality, right? Really examining my own personality and knowing deep in my heart that, hey, this ain't changing. So putting yourself in these relationships, it's only going to be detrimental in the end. Because if you're not in his divine will, where he matches you with a soulmate, with somebody who is on the same wavelength, who doesn't mind, not only doesn't mind, but encourages what you're doing, which is my purpose, which is my study and my research, because my purpose is to teach the word, right? It's to teach. That's my purpose. So if you're not matching with God's will, that kind of personality is not going to really be easy it's going to be difficult. And now that I'm at the ripe age that I am, mature mentally as well as physically, I'm able to now be still and be at peace and not be thirsty for a relationship, not be diving head first. Because again, like I said, you have to know your personality and what you are. And if you really are honest with yourself and you know your personality, you know the type of, personality that you are going to attract to yourself and what will work best for you. So I know, like I said, a lot of relationships that I now know in hindsight that, hey, it's who I am. I'm not like I said, I like hanging out with my books. I love hanging out with my books. I love it. I absolutely love research. Like I mean, you guys don't understand. I got a passion for this stuff. So for me, it's going to be, I already know offhand that I can't just be with anybody and try and not recognizing that and trying to be with anybody. It's not going to, it never worked and it never will. So it makes it more difficult, and I'll wrap up by saying, because I'm at the 15-minute mark, I'm on 16 minutes. I'll wrap up by saying this. This is the Bible verse that justifies what I just said. Broad is the way to destruction, narrow is the way to salvation. Broad meaning everybody's on Popular Street. That's Popular Street. It's the broad street. Everybody hangs out there. Everybody's having a good time, revelry, partying, having a great time. That narrow street means your mind has to be narrow, has to be single. Your eye have to be single. You have to be focused. You have to be laser-like focused. That's the narrow street. What comes with narrow street? Not a lot. It's a lonely street, hence called narrow. There's not a lot of people on that street. And I'm on narrow street. My life is a narrow street. So trying to hang out with people who are on Broad Street when I'm on narrow street, it's only a matter of time before we part ways and go back to our resonating streets. I resonate with narrow, you resonate with broad. So you see what I'm saying? So till next time, peace.